What if your struggles were maps to your soul's true purpose? Imagine just for a moment that every fear you've ever felt, every self-doubt you've ever battled, isn't just an obstacle to overcome, but a map. A map pointing you directly toward your deepest purpose. What if the very parts of yourself you've tried to ignore, suppress, or even reject are the ones carrying the secret to who you truly are? Today we're diving into one of the most transformative and soul-stirring ideas in the realm of psychology and philosophy, Carl Jung's theory of the shadow. But this isn't just about abstract theories, it's about a sacred personal journey, one that could fundamentally reshape your inner world. By the end of this exploration, you'll not only understand what your shadow is, but how it holds the key to your untapped potential, your authentic freedom, and a more meaningful life. Carl Jung, a pioneer of depth psychology, believed the shadow is the unconscious part of ourselves that we disown. It's made up of the traits, desires, emotions, and impulses that we label as shameful, irrational, or unacceptable. Ironically, these are often the very seeds of our deepest strength, creativity, and power. So ask yourself, how often do you avoid a thought because it makes you uncomfortable? How often do you judge others for traits that, if you're honest, also exist somewhere inside you? Have you ever been triggered by someone else's behavior, not realizing that the intensity of your reaction had less to do with them and more to do with a part of yourself trying to speak up? Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The shadow is not just darkness, it is potential. It is raw energy buried deep because we're too afraid or ashamed to face it. Pause here. Reflect. Are there parts of yourself you try to keep hidden, even from yourself? Maybe it's a fear of failure, a quiet envy, a deep anger, or perhaps it's a passion so strong, so wild, that you've convinced yourself it's too much or not practical. But what if these flaws aren't flaws at all? What if they're sacred messages waiting to be heard? Jung believed that facing the shadow leads to individuation, the journey of becoming whole, of becoming who you were meant to be. Not just the version of you that the world sees, but the full integrated self, both light and shadow. It's not easy. It takes courage. It requires honesty, humility, and a deep willingness to sit with the unknown. But the reward, a life of integrity, a life of depth, a life where you finally feel like you. Every great hero faces their shadow. Hercules didn't just battle monsters, he wrestled with his own rage. Luke Skywalker couldn't become a true Jedi until he faced the darkness within himself. These aren't just myths. They are mirrors of your own path. So the question becomes, are you ready to take that first step? Are you willing to look directly at the parts of yourself you've been running from and ask, what are you here to teach me? Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your guide. It speaks through your fears, your dreams, your intense emotions, and even the people you're drawn to or repelled by. The journey begins with awareness. Notice the emotional reactions that feel too big, too fast, or too tense. They're clues. Then comes acceptance, not indulgence, but compassion. You don't have to act on every impulse, but you do need to honor its presence and understand what it's showing you. Imagine the freedom of no longer fearing your flaws. Imagine living with your whole self, not half of it. That's where confidence is born. That's where true growth begins. And in the next section, we'll go even deeper into how to work with your shadow step by step, so that the parts of you you once ran from become the very source of your personal power. From darkness to destiny, the art of integration. Now let's turn our gaze from the darkness toward the light and discover how embracing your shadow can actually lead you to your life's purpose. And remember, the most profound insight is still ahead. Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you won't just understand your shadow, you'll hold a map in your hands. A map that leads to healing purpose and profound inner peace. Let's continue this sacred exploration into your inner world and unlock the extraordinary potential that's been waiting perhaps for years to be seen. The shadow reveals itself in many ways. It shows up in your habits, in your relationships, and most powerfully, in your reactions. Have you ever had a moment when you reacted so strongly to something, an argument, a comment, a situation, and later wondered, why did that affect me so much? That surge of emotion where reason seems to vanish is often your shadow stepping into the spotlight. But why does it have so much power? Carl Jung believed the answer lies in its unconscious nature. What we suppress gains strength in the dark. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more forcefully it explodes to the surface when you can no longer contain it. But what if, instead of suppressing it, you lifted it into the light? What if you traced that emotion back to its root? How much more peaceful, more in control, more free would you feel? One of the most revealing aspects of shadow work is the concept of projection. Jung explained that when we reject parts of ourselves, we often project those disowned qualities onto others. If you carry a hidden wound of inadequacy, you might resent people who seem overly confident, or dismiss the success of others because it highlights your own inner self-doubt. This isn't just a psychological quirk. It's a mirror the world reflects back the parts of ourselves that we have yet to face. Jung put it powerfully. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. So pause for a moment. Who in your life consistently triggers something in you? A coworker, a partner, a sibling. Instead of fixating on their flaws, ask yourself, what is this emotional reaction trying to show me about myself? What part of my shadow have I cast onto them? This isn't about blame. It's about reclaiming. Each trigger is an invitation to retrieve a lost part of your wholeness and bring it back into conscious awareness. Now let's go deeper. The shadow doesn't just hide our fears, it often hides our gifts. Many times, the very qualities we suppress are linked to our true purpose. A person who buries their creative fire out of fear of judgment may discover through shadow work that creativity is their sacred calling. What they thought was a weakness was actually a compass pointing home. Jung believed that purpose is not something we find out in the world. It's something we uncover from within. It emerges when we are fully aligned with our authentic self, a self that includes both our brilliance and our brokenness. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." So how do we begin this journey of alignment? It starts with self-inquiry. Ask yourself, what do I fear most about myself? What parts of me have I been taught to hide? What dreams have I silenced because they didn't seem practical or acceptable? Write your answers down. Sit with them. Don't rush to fix. Just listen. You may be surprised by what arises when you give your shadow a voice. One of the most powerful tools for this work is journaling. Jung himself kept extensive journals often filled with his dreams. He encouraged his patients to do the same, as dreams are direct messages from the unconscious. Pay attention to patterns, symbols, recurring emotions. Your soul may be trying to speak through them. And now, imagine the transformation that comes with this integration. Picture an artist who refuses to use dark tones. Yes, their paintings may be pleasant, but they lack contrast, depth, and truth. When you embrace your shadow, you gain access to the full palette of human experience. You become like an artist who doesn't fear the dark, who paints with it, who uses every color to create a masterpiece. Integration isn't about indulging every shadowy impulse. It's not about letting your pain run your life. It's about something much deeper. The sacred art of self-acceptance. Integrating the shadow. True transformation begins the moment we stop running and start listening. Understanding and accepting your shadow is not about indulging darkness. It's about embracing your full humanity. This kind of acceptance opens the door to compassion, not only for yourself, but for others as well. You begin to see clearly, everyone carries a shadow. Everyone wrestles with hidden fears, untold stories, and unspoken pain. And in that shared struggle, something beautiful emerges, a deeper connection to all of humanity. The journey of shadow work isn't a weekend retreat. It's a lifelong path, one that calls for patience, courage, and an unwavering commitment to self-growth. But the rewards, they are immeasurable. You gain clarity about your purpose. You begin to feel more grounded in your truth. And perhaps most importantly, you learn to live in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. Here's something vital. Your purpose is not just about you. Jung believed that when one person undergoes individuation, this sacred process of becoming whole, they contribute to the collective unconscious, the great web of shared human experience. Your healing becomes a ripple. Your authenticity becomes an invitation. Your courage becomes a light for others walking in the dark. And now we take this from the philosophical to the practical, because understanding your shadow is only the beginning. Integration is where the real alchemy happens. So how do you bring shadow work into your daily life? It starts with radical self-honesty. This means looking in the mirror, not with judgment, but with clarity. It's having the courage to say, yes, I feel jealous, or yes, I sometimes criticize others because I'm afraid to be seen myself. But honesty is not shame. It's illumination. Think of it like cleaning a long neglected room in your house. You don't get angry at the dust, you simply start clearing it. In the same way, you can't reclaim your power until you acknowledge where it's been buried. A simple, powerful practice is this. Pay attention to your emotional triggers. The next time you feel anger, fear, jealousy, or even excessive admiration, pause. Ask yourself, why am I reacting this way? And what part of me feels threatened or unseen? Am I projecting something onto this person or situation? For example, if someone's confidence irritates you, could it be that their boldness touches a part of you that's been told to stay quiet? Maybe their radiance reminds you of a desire within yourself to shine, to be unapologetically visible. This kind of inquiry is not always comfortable. It's far easier to point fingers than to ask questions. But shadow work is not about blame, it's about liberation. Once you've identified pieces of your shadow, the next step is dialogue. Yes, really speak to your shadow. Jung often encouraged this, treating the shadow as a separate presence within you, not to banish it, but to understand it. Ask it, why do you feel this way? What are you trying to protect me from? What do you need from me so you no longer have to hide? You can do this through journaling, visualization, or even meditation. It might feel strange at first, but what you're doing is giving voice to the parts of you that were never allowed to speak. And in those conversations, you may discover something extraordinary. A fear you've carried for years may be traced back to a moment in childhood when you felt alone. A trait you've suppressed, like ambition, passion, sensuality, may actually be one of your greatest strengths. Now, let's bring this into your relationships. Because your shadow doesn't just shape your inner world, it influences how you show up for others. Maybe you've noticed recurring conflicts with someone in your life, Or perhaps you keep attracting the same kind of partner, over and over again. These aren't just coincidences. They are patterns, reflections of unhealed aspects of yourself. The way we relate to others often mirrors the way we relate to our own unconscious. When a shadow remains hidden, it seeks expression sometimes through drama, sometimes through repetition. But when you begin to integrate your shadow, your relationships transform. You stop projecting. You stop blaming. You begin seeing people as they are, not as screens onto which you cast your own unresolved emotions. You become more present, more compassionate, and more willing to love without fear, and that is just the beginning. The final revelation. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your power. Carl Jung believed that relationships act as mirrors. Every person who enters our life, especially those who trigger strong emotional responses, reflects back to us parts of ourselves we have not yet made peace with. When you feel irritated, hurt, or judged by someone, it's often not about them. It's about you. More specifically, it's about the parts of you that still dwell in the unconscious, the parts you've hidden, denied, or feared. But here's the powerful shift. Instead of blaming, resenting, or pulling away, ask, what is this moment trying to teach me about myself? This one question can turn conflict into clarity. It can alchemize discomfort into growth. And it doesn't end there. Jung also taught us that the shadow isn't just a container for our negative traits. It's the reservoir of our untapped potential. The energy you've used to keep your shadow hidden. That same energy, when reclaimed, can become the fuel for your purpose, your creativity, your voice. Think about it. When repressed, festers, but when transformed, it becomes the fire of social change. A buried longing to be seen might once embraced ignite a gift for storytelling, performing, or leading. History gives us countless examples. Frida Kahlo turned her pain and vulnerability into hauntingly beautiful art. Martin Luther King Jr. channeled his righteous anger into a movement that awakened the conscience of a nation. These aren't just stories, they're roadmaps. Jung believed that creativity was one of the purest paths to individuation, to becoming whole. Art, writing, music, invention. Even the way you solve problems can bring you face to face with your shadow and give it form, voice, and dignity. So ask yourself now, what passion have you set aside because it felt too vulnerable? What dream have you postponed because it didn't seem safe? Could it be that the very parts of you you've hidden are the keys to who you were always meant to become? As you begin to integrate your shadow, something begins to shift. What once seemed overwhelming becomes your strength. What once brought shame now brings wisdom. You begin to live with more authenticity, more confidence, more purpose. And now we come to the final truth. The shadow. This dark, quiet part of you you've feared for so long is not here to destroy you. It's here to liberate you. It's not a curse. It's a calling. The path to your highest potential isn't paved by perfection. It's paved by integration. Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's the heart of shadow work. Not pretending to be perfect, not chasing a sanitized version of spirituality, but owning every part of who you are. Light and dark, strength and wound, love and fear. And how do you make the darkness conscious? Through vulnerability. Through the courage to say, "This is me. These are my fears. These are my flaws. This is my truth." Vulnerability is not weakness. It's your most courageous act of strength. Because when you remove the mask, when you allow yourself to be fully seen, You create space for genuine connection. You open the door to relationships that are built not on performance, but on truth. This kind of authenticity is magnetic. It inspires trust. It invites others to do the same. And little by little, the world heals with you. But this is bigger than your personal journey. When you integrate your shadow, you stop being at war with yourself, and as a result, you stop unconsciously projecting that war onto the world around you. You become a source of peace, a lighthouse for others, a living embodiment of wholeness. And in a fragmented world that desperately needs healing, that might just be your greatest gift of all. Your shadow is not the end of you. It's the beginning of your becoming. When you begin to make peace with the parts of yourself you once feared, something beautiful happens. A quiet stillness awakens within. This inner peace doesn't stay hidden. It radiates. It touches the way you respond to challenges. It softens the way you meet others. It transforms how you walk toward your calling. You begin living not from fragmentation, but from wholeness. And from this place of wholeness, your purpose no longer feels like something distant or mysterious. You stop chasing it out there because you begin to feel it in here. Carl Jung taught us that purpose is not something we find. It's something we remember. It rises naturally the moment you align with who you truly are, shadow included. Think about that. Your purpose isn't just about what you do. It's about who you are becoming. It's your unique story woven from strength, beauty, pain, and longing. It's the way you've been shaped by your battles, and it's the way you now choose to give meaning to others through your presence. Your shadow is not a barrier to that purpose. It is your compass. Someone who has felt the sting of unworthiness may become a voice of worth for others. Someone who has burned with anger may turn that fire into justice. Your wounds can become your wisdom. Your darkness can become your depth. And now the most sacred truth of all. When you heal your shadow, you don't just heal yourself. You become part of healing the world. Why? Because when you stop running from your pain, you stop projecting it. You stop passing it down. You start seeing others not as enemies or threats, but as fellow travelers, each carrying their own hidden story. Imagine a world where more people chose this path, where instead of denying or blaming, we turned inward, where instead of building walls, we offered mirrors. That world would be softer, kinder, wiser, more awake. This is the true power of shadow work. It's not just self-help, it's soul work. It's the quiet revolution that starts within and spreads like light through every life you touch. So as we close this journey, I leave you with an invitation, a challenge. Look within, not just at the polished parts, but at the forgotten ones, the hidden ones, the trembling ones. Ask yourself, what is my shadow trying to teach me? How can I use its message to live more freely, more honestly, more fully? What is one small step I can take today to honor the whole of who I am? This isn't a finish line. This is the first step into a new beginning. A chapter where you no longer run from your darkness, but walk beside it. A life where your soul no longer whispers, but sings. Thank you for walking this path with me. If something in this message stirred your heart, I invite you to share it. Your voice, your story, your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And remember, you are not broken. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are a living masterpiece in the making, crafted from both shadow and light. May you walk forward with courage. May you speak with wisdom. And may you live with the kind of peace that comes only from embracing all of who you are. Until next time, thank you for looking within.